1 millisecond. That's how long it takes for a nuclear submarine to implode when it passes crush depth. The hull, constructed from the strongest steel on Earth, collapses inward at 1,500 miles per hour, faster than sound, faster than thought. The human brain needs 25 milliseconds just to register a threat. By then, you've already ceased to exist. 1963, 129 men aboard the USS Thresher learned this truth in the most absolute way possible. They were the first, but they weren't the last. This is what happens when a nuclear submarine sinks past crush depth. To understand what happens at crush depth, we first need to understand pressure. Every 10 meters you descend underwater adds 1 atmosphere of pressure, 14.7 pounds per square inch. At 300 meters, a submarine hull withstands 30 atmospheres. At 800 feet, the operational depth of modern attack submarines, the pressure exceeds 400 pounds per square inch. Think of it this way. Imagine an elephant standing on every square inch of your body. Now multiply that by 6. That's the force pushing against the hull. Submarine designers calculate 3 critical depths. First is the test depth, the maximum normal operating depth tested during sea trials. For a modern Los Angeles-class submarine, that's approximately 450 meters or 1,500 feet. Second is the design depth, the theoretical maximum the submarine can handle with safety margins built in. This is classified information, but typically 30 to 50% deeper than test depth. And then there's crush depth, collapse depth, the point of no return. Technically, crush depth should equal design depth, but engineering safety margins mean the actual collapse point is usually somewhat deeper, maybe 50 to 100 feet more. Maybe less, if there's a weakness, a flaw, a crack. You never truly know your submarine's crush depth until you reach it. And by then, it's far too late. April 9th, 1963. Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, Kittery, Maine. The USS Thresher cast off her lines at 7:30 in the morning, steaming east into the Atlantic. She was the most advanced submarine in the world, the lead boat of a new class designed to run quieter and dive deeper than anything before her. On board were 129 souls, 16 officers, 96 enlisted sailors, and 17 civilians from the shipyard, there to monitor systems during deep diving trials. Commander John Wesley Harvey was at the helm, just 36 years old. He'd served on the pioneer submarine Nautilus and had been on board when it became the first ship to reach the North Pole. He was considered one of the Navy's brightest submarine commanders, but Thresher had problems. She'd just come out of overhaul. New systems, new welds, and some concerning reports about saltwater piping. The submarine's previous commanding officer had written in his evaluation, "The most dangerous condition that exists in Thresher is the danger of saltwater flooding while at or near test depth." The braze joints and pipes were a special concern, and many electrical panels were not adequately protected from seawater. April 10th, 1963, 9:17 a.m. The submarine rescue ship USS Skylark received a garbled underwater telephone transmission from Thresher, experiencing minor difficulties. Minutes later, another message, attempting to blow up, and then silence. At 9 hours 18 minutes and 24 seconds, exactly 1 minute and 24 seconds later, a sound surveillance system array detected an implosion. The Thresher had collapsed at a depth of 2,400 feet, 400 feet below her predicted crush depth. The implosion took 0.1 seconds, 1/10 of a second, faster than human perception. 129 men vanished in less time than it takes to blink. So what actually happens during an implosion? As a submarine descends past crush depth, the hull begins to fail. The fittings and pipes give way first. Powerful jets of water blast through, shorting out electrical systems. The additional weight drives the submarine deeper at an ever-increasing speed. The hull groans under impossible pressure. Interior cork insulation cracks and flakes off. Men scramble desperately for some means of escape, but there is none. The submarine is already below the depth where rescue is possible, and then the hull reaches its absolute limit. When a submarine hull collapses, it moves inward at approximately 1,500 miles per hour, 2,200 feet per second. The collapse is complete in about 1 millisecond or 1,000th of a second. The human brain responds to stimulus at about 25 milliseconds. Rational human response takes at least 150 milliseconds. By the time your brain could even begin to process what's happening, the collapse is already finished. The physics are brutal. The air inside the submarine, which contains hydrocarbon vapors from diesel fuel, hydraulic fluid, human breath, and other combustibles, is compressed at a ratio of 400 to 1. This adiabatic compression generates temperatures exceeding 3,000 degrees Celsius. The air auto-ignites. An explosion follows the initial implosion. There's a common misconception that the heat cooks the crew, but physics tells a different story. The compression event is so rapid, occurring in milliseconds, that there isn't enough time for heat transfer to human tissue before cold seawater rushes in. Death is not from burning. Death is from the instantaneous crushing force. The internal pressure surges from 14.7 psi to almost 875 psi in moments. Lungs and sinuses instantly cave in. The shockwave renders consciousness impossible. It's not so much that you die, it's that you cease to exist. By April 11th, submarines USS Seawolf and USS Sea Owl joined the search. Surface ships combed the area. The Navy mounted an extensive effort with its deep search capability. During the search, the Seawolf reported detecting possible signs of life, including what appeared to be a life vest seen through its periscope. But these reports were later discounted. The truth was inescapable. Everyone aboard Thresher had died in the initial implosion. It wasn't until October 1964, 18 months after the disaster, that a deep-sea vehicle finally photographed the wreckage. Oceanographer Robert Ballard later described the Thresher as looking like it went through a shredding machine, spread out over a mile of ocean floor at a depth of 8,500 feet. The Navy's investigation concluded that the most probable cause was a pipe failure in the engine room, likely a silver braze joint that cracked under pressure. Salt water sprayed onto electrical systems, causing a reactor scram. The submarine lost propulsion at test depth and began to sink. When the crew attempted to blow the main ballast tanks to surface, temporary strainers in the air system had collapsed, blocking airflow. The emergency blow system, their last hope, failed. The submarine plunged past crush depth, and physics took over. 37 years later, another submarine disaster would shock the world. This time, it wasn't crush depth that killed. It was something arguably worse. August 12, 2000, the Barents Sea. The Russian nuclear submarine Kursk, one of the largest and most powerful attack submarines ever built, was participating in a major naval exercise. At 11:29 a.m., 2 explosions ripped through the boat. The official investigation concluded a torpedo explosion was the probable cause. A hydrogen peroxide fuel leak started a fire, which detonated a torpedo's 900-pound warhead. 2 minutes later, the remaining torpedoes exploded, tearing a massive hole in the bow. The Kursk sank to the seafloor, but unlike Thresher, it didn't implode. The depth was only 354 feet, too shallow for the pressure to crush the hull. And that meant some of the crew survived. 23 sailors made it to a rear compartment. Lieutenant Captain Dmitry Koselnikov left a note dated 2 hours after the explosions, recording 23 survivors. They waited in the darkness. The hull creaked and groaned. Water slowly rose. The air grew thick with carbon dioxide. And outside, a bungled rescue effort unfolded. The Russian Navy repeatedly failed to attach diving bells and submersibles to the escape hatch. They refused Western assistance for days. By the time Norwegian divers finally opened the hatch 9 days later, all 118 crew members were dead. Some Russian Navy officials suggested the survivors could have been alive for at least 3 days. Others claimed they died of carbon monoxide poisoning within 8 hours. The Kursk demonstrated something terrifying. Sometimes, not reaching crush depth is worse. At least implosion is instant. The Kursk survivors had time to know they were dying. The loss of Thresher led to fundamental changes. In December 1963, the Navy launched SUBSAFE, the most rigorous submarine safety program ever created. It covers design review, construction inspections, quality control, and testing procedures. From 1915 to 1963, the U.S. Navy lost 16 submarines to non-combat accidents. Since SUBSAFE was implemented, only 1 submarine has been lost, USS Scorpion in 1968, which was not SUBSAFE certified. Modern submarines have redundant systems. Emergency ballast blow systems are designed to function even with electrical failure. Hull materials are tested beyond design specifications. Every weld is X-rayed. Every pipe joint is pressure tested. Modern attack submarines like the Seawolf class have estimated test depths of 490 meters, 1,600 feet, suggesting crush depths around 2,400 feet. Russian titanium-hulled submarines can go even deeper, but depth limits are still classified, and crush depth remains theoretical until it isn't. In 2023,
A Royal Navy Vanguard-class submarine carrying 140 crew and Trident missiles nearly suffered disaster when the depth gauge failed during patrol. The submarine was approaching crush depth when safety systems saved them. An urgent probe was launched, but the incident was kept secret for security reasons. The ocean hasn't become less dangerous. We've just become better at respecting it. So what have we learned from these tragedies? First, physics doesn't care about courage, training, or technology. When pressure exceeds structural limits, collapse is inevitable and instantaneous. There is no margin for error, no second chances. Second, the ocean is not our domain. Every submarine is an artificial bubble of air and steel in an environment designed to crush it. We're visitors in a realm fundamentally hostile to human life. Third, safety systems work when they're properly designed, maintained, and followed. Since SUBSAFE, the U.S. Submarine Force has operated for over 60 years without a hull failure loss. But the human cost of these lessons was devastating. The Thresher disaster prompted President Kennedy to order flags flown at half-staff. Memorial poles and monuments were erected across America. In Kittery, Maine, a 129-foot flagpole, 1 foot for each lost soul, stands at Memorial Circle. The families of the crew fought for decades to get answers. In 2019, retired Navy Captain James Bryant sued to have investigation documents declassified. A judge ordered 3,600 pages released. They revealed systemic problems, inadequate training, overconfidence, a deadly arms race pushing submarines beyond safe limits. The Kursk disaster had profound political consequences. It was President Putin's first major crisis, and his poor handling damaged his credibility. Russian media compared it to Chernobyl. Families of the dead confronted officials on camera, demanding answers that never came. In 2001, the Kursk was raised from the seafloor at a cost of $65 million. The bow, where the explosions occurred, was cut off and left on the bottom. The rest was towed to Murmansk for investigation. These disasters changed submarine design, training, and culture forever. They made the invisible war a little bit safer, but they couldn't bring back the dead. There's something uniquely terrifying about death by implosion. It's not just the speed, though 1 millisecond is incomprehensibly fast. It's not just the violence, though the forces involved are apocalyptic. It's the totality, the completeness. You don't suffer. You don't even have time to be afraid. One moment you exist, the next moment you don't. It's as close to absolute erasure as nature allows. For submariners, this is a known risk. They volunteer anyway. They climb into metal tubes and descend into the abyss, trusting their lives to steel, science, and each other. The men of the Thresher were pioneers. They pushed the boundaries of what was possible, knowing that boundaries sometimes push back. Their sacrifice led to safety improvements that have saved countless lives since. The men of the Kursk waited in the darkness, hoping for rescue that came too late. Their deaths exposed corruption and incompetence, forcing reforms in the Russian Navy. Both disasters remind us of a fundamental truth. The ocean is the most unforgiving environment on Earth. It gives no warnings. It shows no mercy, and it never forgets. Modern submarines can dive deeper, stay submerged longer, and operate more safely than ever before. But crush depth is still out there, waiting in the darkness, an invisible line that can never truly be mapped. As long as submarines patrol the deep, as long as humans dare to explore the abyss, there will always be a risk. A chance that steel will fail, that pressure will win, that the ocean will reclaim what was never ours to begin with. The USS Thresher rests at 8,500 feet, her hull shattered across the seafloor. She was never decommissioned. The Navy considers her on eternal patrol, a designation meaning the patrol that begins at departure from port and ends on return. For submarines that sink, the patrol never ends. So does the Kursk. So does the Scorpion. So do all the submarines lost to the deep. And somewhere in the darkness, far below the reach of sunlight, the ocean keeps its secrets. This is what happens when a nuclear submarine sinks past crush depth. This is the price of exploring the invisible frontier. This is the silent depths. Thanks for watching.